Okay, the very first three verses of Second Peter, second chapter, what is starts talking about false prophets. First chapter is about the true prophets. Second chapter is about false prophets. So what's the big ordeal about it? Why should we pay attention to this? Well, there's several different reasons that Peter's given. In these first three verses, it's not so much as how we're listening to or who we're listening to as what is who we're listening to doing to you. What is the impact of a false teacher on you? It's the dangers behind listening to a false teacher. Now, sometimes someone will make a mistake when they're speaking. That is totally different than someone that is trying to change Scripture or refusing to speak on Scripture. That's the two that's trying to tickle people's ears, right? Go back up to first one. Whereas we're trying to find out the dangers. What is it about it? But false prophets who arose among the people, just as there will also be false teachers among you, who will secretly introduce destructive heresies. Okay, we cover this history. Even denying the master who bought them, bringing swift destruction upon themselves. Okay, what they're actually doing by listening to ones that's able to change Scripture where it doesn't mean as much as what it's supposed to mean, or denying Scripture, or refusing to speak on the sins in our lives. What that does is it takes the necessity away from us, where we do not have to worry about standing in judgment. It takes it where we're okay to live however we want, which is not what the Bible is for. See, a law was put out there to keep us from crossing a boundary. It's put there to guard us. Same way with the Bible. It's put there to guard us, so we know what his likes and dislikes are. When a minister speaks against something, it is not to shame someone, but it is to guard their soul, because it's trying to bring them back in. Whenever you refuse to speak about sin, or you speak of sin as being good and right and just as righteous as a holy living, then that is destructive heresy that strips away everything from the gospel, which is the true meaning, is to get us where we are presentable to God, where we can enter back into his presence. Now, if you're living like the world, then you're not going to be living like God. There's only two sides of this. So there's the first danger. Second one, and many will follow their sensuality, unbridled lust, if you would. Just living any old way they want. And because of them, the way of the truth will be maligned or disgraced, talked about, mocked. You see, you've had a lot of people that's had fame get to their head, and they've allowed their personal lives to get away from them. And every single thing they did for God was totally crushed, ripped away. They became a mockery. You got TV evangelists that people started talking about because of some of the things that happened back in the day. Things that happen in the churches, and people mock the churches. But see, it's not a church body. It is certain individuals that has allowed their greed, their lust. They have allowed positions and power to come between them and what they were really called to do. And their failure, they have turned the gospel into a mockery. And they become destructive. Many of them was never called by God, but they were called by man or by their own lust. This right here is nothing that we should call for ourselves, because we stand at greater judgment than anyone else, because we are saying what his word is. And we better have it right. All right, round down verse 3. And their greed, they will exploit you with false words. Their judgment from long ago is not idle, and their destruction is not asleep. I used to hear, my mom used to tell me this statement says, if any old way at all do, no way at all do. Well, break that down a little bit further. If there are no boundaries and you can live however you want and still make it to heaven, then what in the world is this Bible here for? Why did I need Jesus to come down and die on the cross for me? If any way at all will work, then what's wrong with the way I was living before I fell to my knees? So you got people that wants to get a bigger congregation, bigger viewers, want to get their pockets filled. So they're willing to alter the words. They're willing to say it's okay to live in sin just to continue to have that power, just continue to be in that position. And does not faze them whatsoever if your soul is damned for all eternity to hell. Because to them, they stripped away all manner of the judgment that is to come. I have a saying that I like to put out. It is that your character is directly associated with your faith. What that means is if you believe in a deity that is all loving, then you will seem to be that same way because you want to please him. If you believe in a deity of war, then that's the kind of person you're going to be because you're trying to please him. Your character will never be equal to or greater than the deity that you profess or believe in. If you believe that there is no God, then there is no boundaries to what you are willing to do. There's no consequences. If you believe that this God is asleep and is not coming back, then why should you bother to prepare yourself for a judgment? Because now you don't believe in one. This is false teachings and the principles behind them. And as you listen to someone, then your feelings, your beliefs, your theology will start to mimic theirs. I've seen it before where you have one pastor getting up there leading a church, and if they're isolating themselves and they just come, give the word, then they go. Well, the congregation starts doing that too. And then you bring in another pastor that just wants to love people and wants to fellowship. And then you start seeing the same group stay after church 10, 15, 20 minutes longer. No sermons, not worried about food. They just want to fellowship. They want to get out and love people. Then after that, you get another one there that just wants to say the word and go again. Well, they start dropping back off and going back. The ones you choose to follow, you will begin to mimic. Not just your friends, the ones you hang around, the ones you listen to, even the music that you listen to, all this stuff you'll start mimicking, because that's who you're taking in. That's who you're devoting your time for. Paul says it, be not deceived, bad company corrupts good morals. It's in 1 Corinthians 15:33. Well, the same thing goes with our leaders. Make sure that you're listening to the right ones. Make sure you're listening to ones that wants to honor God, not just with their words, but with their life. That's the reason why they give all these stipulations in Timothy and Titus about the ministers, making sure they're living a holy life, because that's the ones you're choosing to lead you. Make sure their lives are backed up with the scripture. All of us stand before God one day. Right is right, wrong is wrong. There is no excuse, there is no pass for a minister, a deacon, prayer warrior. There's no excuse. Sin is sin, right is right. You're either going to be living for God or living for the world. No matter what you do, your choices is going to be giving that message out to all those around you who's watching you. Let's make sure we're not being false teachers of them. So these dangers that I'm talking about, that we're not passing on to them. He is coming. He's not asleep. And it's up to us to be his light. May God bless.